Good Tuesday to you, everyone. In column 651. Welcome to week kaboom 6. We are just like 2 weeks from halfway point. Scary. Let's get this video started correctly. Much better. Okay. How's everybody doing? I know I'm looking at myself and I'm noticing that the lighting is really weird. All right, that's a little better. Okay, so this week I'm going to post 2 videos. I'll post this one and then the next one. In this video, we're going to talk a little bit about what we're doing this week, and then we'll review the questions from last week. And in the second video, I'm going to go through a review of your first PR presentation. Some of you have already reached out to me by email and said, hey, can I talk with you and get some explanations to how and why you evaluated the assignment the way you did? And the answer, of course, is yes, you can. All right. But I thought for everybody else, when you busy schedule, you don't have time to talk to me during my office hours, I'd go over some of the main points. Okay. Let's take a look at what we're going to be doing this week. First and foremost, you'll read chapter 6 in Stacks and chapter 6 in Scott. Okay, and in this, I get the bad news. I mean, this is not really a sexy week. These chapters, you're going to look at data, descriptive statistics, secondary research. And in fact, in Stacks, Stacks is going to walk you through how you would enter data into the most commonly used data program, SPSS. No, in this class, you're not expected to be running SPSS, but this is a handy reference for you if at some point you are using SPSS, which is not, improbable. SPSS is less than fully user-friendly. The interface could use an update from like years ago. Okay, it's kind of a clunky interface, to be very honest with you. So one of the things that I like about this chapter is having this sort of reference at your fingertips. I mean, I hope you hang on to your books, that in future, when you have the opportunity to use SPSS, you'll have a sort of a guide, a primer as to how you do it. Okay. The other thing that is out there and for you this week is your second PR assignment. All right. This one is due on March 10th, which is the first Monday of spring break. So, you want to work through the weekend. And I typically, I don't like to assign work during spring break. I mean, a modular week or what do you want to call it? Take a break, okay? Usually that you get caught up on other stuff, clean out the gutters or whatever it is that you're doing, okay? So March 10th, though, so today is the 18th of February, all right? And so March 10th is what? 2 weeks and change, just short of 3 weeks from today. All right. So let me just describe to you this second assignment. Now, it's in the assignment folder. It's laid out for you there. Okay. Please carefully read and address the prompt. I have expanded the word limit up to 2,000 words. There's utility in being brief. So you don't have to write up to the word limit. If you can get done what you need to get done under the word limit, so much the better. And I can tell you from many, many years of work, and that's ongoing in the business world, less is more. Okay, nobody wants to read a 1,000-word document if they can avoid it. All right. So, but some of you said, hey, this word cap I'm having a hard time with. And I'll get to that in the second video. That is, your word count. Okay. Anyhow, same thing, 150 points. Now remember, because you're not doing a research paper in this class, you've got 4 of these. Okay. So it's 600 points. And then you're going to have a final exam, which will have a whole bunch of stuff because it's a 400-point exam. All right. So make sure that you understand the material well that you're reading. Make sure that you're being able to and not only answer but articulate the items. Like I mean, just starting with basic definitions of terms, but also come to grapple with the concepts that are being laid out, because that's the material that I will draw on to construct your final exam. Okay, so beyond just doing the assignment, make sure you know the component parts and how it works. Okay, so here is your prompt. You've acquainted yourself with backcountry.com. We're going to spend a little bit more time with this company. And then you've written an internal memo making the case for research-based approach to PR and advertising. It's time to sit down with the good folks from backcountry.com. Okay. For this first meeting, you will present a SWOT analysis of the company as it stands in relationship to other competitors and the opportunities in the outdoor equipment marketplace. Now, I should say, outdoor equipment / apparel, because I'm not trying to be exclusive. So that's, in fact, I'm just gonna add that in. Okay. In the description, because they do sell a lot of clothes, and actually it's in clothing that a lot of companies make their money. They make more money from people who want to look like they spend a lot of time outdoors than they do from equipment for people who spend time outdoors. I mean, I'm one of them. I spend a lot of time. My camera still doesn't look like it's focusing well. Let me see if I can get it to behave. Yeah, that's okay. I spent a lot of time outdoors and in the back country. Whoops. Don't want the lawyers to descend on me. Anyway, and one of the giveaways for people that do this at a serious level, I was, this last summer, for instance, I was trekking in the mountains in northern Spain, and maybe I'll throw up a few pictures in the post. It was a beautiful but very, very challenging trip. I mean, like this kind of thing. But anyway, I don't have a lot of equipment. I mean, I don't buy a lot of equipment. I buy what I need, and then I use what I need. And I'm looking to, save weight. I'm always looking to save money. So I don't spend a lot of time on clothing that's not specific to an outdoor activity. I mean, I think I got this shirt honestly at Walmart. But many people do like the look that they go outside. So I put apparel in there. Okay. Anyhow, you're going to construct a SWOT analysis. Your task is to create a detailed SWOT analysis for backcountry.com. For each element of your analysis, you should be specific in your findings, citing the articles, research, and sources that you used in writing the analysis. Your SWOT analysis should include an introduction that summarizes your analysis. In other words, like, the total picture is, as well as a conclusion in which you advise backcountry.com on how they might maximize their strengths and minimize their weaknesses in retooling and crafting a new PR campaign. Okay, so you might be saying, hey, I'm not sure what a SWOT analysis is. Well, that's part of the exercise. A SWOT analysis is a standard exercise in PR. It's a standard exercise in project management. It's a standard exercise in business. The more you learn about them and the more comfortable you become with them, both reading and understanding them and then creating them, the better off you're going to be. And in fact, where that question of reading and understanding them is concerned, there is no better way for you to spot a weak SWOT analysis than having the experience of doing one yourself. All right, so that's why I'm giving you this opportunity. That's very good. Okay, so to get you started, but only started, okay, here are a few links to sites focused on trends in the outdoor clothing and equipment marketplace. I'll talk about this when I review your first assignment. But if the only things that you cite are the stuff that I list, you're not doing your job. All right. I mean, look here, folks. what I'm trying to do in constructing these exercises and constructing these courses is give you as close to a real world exercise in how this stuff works. And I can tell you from real world experience, if you don't get to the point in an evidence supported way, I've been in meetings, high level meetings with important clients, and watching people give presentations that are not detailed, that wander, that are not evidence supported. And I've seen the people in the meetings just end the meetings. I mean, they do it in a polite way. They don't go, you sound stupid. Goodbye. They go, oh, okay. I think we have all we need. Thank you so much. Yeah, we'll get back to you. Never going to hear from them again. Okay. So don't just use the links that I give you. Do some more research. Okay. And if you remember, because you read about it this last week, what a SWOT analysis is, there are 4 parts, 4 things for you to look at, 4 things for you to consider. Okay. And writing up your SWOT analysis for your meeting with backcountry, assume that the finished document will be shared during the meeting. Be sure to cite all sources you use, but also be sure to make your SWOT analysis, especially the introduction and conclusion, fluid and readable. So you are not writing an academic paper here. Okay. And as communicators, crafty, successful communicators that you are, you'll learn how to be flexible. You'll learn how to write to different audiences. All right. So that's what we're going to do this week. Let's take a look at what you did last week. I'm getting worn out with this. Again, I apologize. I do not know. I do not understand what's happening on my side of the Canvas module, where honestly, as I sit in this chair and speak to you, I am posting and publishing all of the questions. But what diggity do? I look at the questions, and the 3rd question from week 5 is not published. Why? The Canvas gremlins must have it in for me. All right. So I took it down, put it back up, clicked the publish button again. There it is. So looking at the questions for this week, you actually have 4, not 3, because one of them is from last week. Yes, I do need you to do them. Okay. So let's take a look at question 1 and 2, because, for some reason, for whatever it is I'm doing or not doing, I just can't seem to figure out why or what I do or what's being done, that there's an issue with publishing these questions. All right, question number 1. As discussed in stacks, please briefly explain the difference between a dependent and an independent variable. Write up a hypothetical situation that illustrates the difference between the variables. Now, you might be saying, yeah, this is all interesting or not. What does this have to do with public relations? Yeah, actually everything, because most of public relations now is heavily data driven, and you're going to hear these terms thrown around, and they will assume that everybody has familiarity with them. Okay, Hillary, let's take you. According to Stacks, the independent variable is typically categorical within public relations research. Okay, I'm not exactly explaining it. Okay, and I'm not criticizing you, Hillary, but you got to drill down on this stuff. Okay, what is the thing? Not what it typically is. It's like saying, fruit is typically an apple. Okay, well, what's a fruit? Public relations, the dependent variable is determined by the level of the independent variable. This might look like measuring the dependent variable donation amounts by the independent categorical data of income brackets. In a hypothetical situation, we would analyze whether donation amounts dependent variable increased or decreased as the income brackets of donors independent increased. Okay, now we're getting down to what we're looking for. Okay, this is really good answer, Hillary. This is really very simple. Okay, the difference between an independent and a dependent variable. And because they're, independent and dependent variable aren't things like, pencils and pens are things. Okay, independent and dependent variable are characterizations of events. All right, whatever that is, somebody doing something, somebody feeling something, somebody saying something, some physiological process, doesn't matter. They're characterizations of events. What do I mean by that? Okay, So here I mean, they're different kinds, but you'll get the point. All right. So here I have two pens. All right. A fountain pen and a ballpoint pen. All right. But they're just pens. Pens, pens, pens. Okay. So if I take this pen and I smack it on this pen, okay, to see if this pen will break, which it won't because it's onyx, but let's stick with me. All right. This becomes the independent variable, that is the smack. And then the outcome that I'm looking for, broken pen or no broken pen, is the dependent variable. We could switch those roles. I could say, I'm going to take this pen and smack this other one. Now, this is the independent variable, the smacking. And what I'm looking to see, whether or not happens is the dependent variable, pen breaking or not breaking. Do you understand? That's it. It's really that simple. The independent variable is what's going in the doing, and the dependent variable is what you're looking at for the having been done to, coming out. It's like billiard balls, right? They're both, they're all round, made out of the same stuff, even if they're the same color. When you hit the one, and that's the independent, and it smacks, boom, the other, that's the dependent. Okay? Very straightforward. Okay, question number 2. As discussed in STAC, please explain the following. Data have no meaning except which they came. All right, now remember, data is plural, so that's not a typo on my part. Okay, Claire, let's take a look at you. Sachs explains the dirty, above by stating and answering, if data have no meaning, then how do we distinguish them from other data? We do so by carefully defining both the variables and the data type. Boom, baby. I want you to remember this as you go through your careers, whether you end up in PR or not, in strategic communication. Some number means absolutely nothing. Okay. However, I will tell you, by way of PR and public persuasion, people have a mental bias, a psychological bias, to give greater weight of veracity, of truth, to numbers than to words. And it is really an absurd bias, because when you get right down to it, either a number or a word are just verbal utterances. Or if you write them on a piece of paper, they're just abstract characters strung. So letters or numbers, they're just characters. But it's something in the brain that assigns greater validity to numbers. So be careful yourself not to get fooled, and be careful if you're working with an organization that, I mean, you may or may not want to point this out to the people that you work with. Hey, you get fooled by numbers. Maybe not your strongest move. But be judicious in your evaluation of where the data came from, how it's been labeled, what's been assigned to it by way of meaning. Now, in research, we call this overstretching your conclusions, or your conclusions aren't supported by your data. And we're going to get a little bit of that this week in the readings, because you'll read chapter 6 in STAC, and you're going to read about the difference between descriptive and inferential statistics. What something describes and what something infers. All right. So when you're dealing with data and you're working with an organization, be on the lookout, or even just as a consumer, be on the lookout for assigned meaning to a number that outstrips the actual data behind it. And I'll give you an example. You're going to, that sounds awfully abstract, Dr. Gardner. What the hell are you talking about? Excuse me. What the heck are you talking about? Okay. So right now, there's quite a push to save money in the government, because there's a lot being spent, and there is a lot being spent. There's a lot to be concerned about when it comes to the money that we're spending. Primarily, there's an irony here. The concern is not with the money that we spend. It's how we get it and what that obliges us to do. And that is, namely, we have to borrow the money that we spend. Now, in this last administration, we racked up a debt of about $9 trillion, 8 trillion and change. And again, back to how the mind works, people have a hard time finding an operational definition for numbers. Okay. So look at it this way. When you say trillion, you go, well, I don't know, what's a trillion? Most of us have a hard time conceptualizing that. Well, think about it this way. If you spent $1 million starting from the day that Jesus Christ was born, and you spent $1 million, you personally, quite a party. You spent $1 million starting from the day that Jesus was born, every single day. Every day you spent $1 million from his birth to right now, today, February 18th, 2025, you would not have spent $1 trillion. That's a lot of money. Okay. And currently we owe something on the order of 36 trillion. That's a lot of money. But again, I told you, I mentioned that the problem is not the money. The problem is where we're getting it and what we're borrowing it. And when you borrow, you have to pay interest. And we are paying interest. And right now, the interest that we pay on the money that we borrowed is our number 2 federal expenditure after Medicare, Social Security. Number 2, it's the second. People say, oh, we spend so much on the military. Now, that's way down the line. That's like 4 or 5 in terms of total expenditure. We're rapidly approaching a point where if we continue to borrow and spend as we have, the interest that we pay on the money, not paying the money back, just paying the interest that we're obliged to pay, will become our number 1 expenditure. And we are just under, right now, the amount of money that we need to spend to pay the interest on these loans is just under our entire gross domestic product. That is the value of everything we produce. If we do not do something about the spending, within 10 years, the amount we spend on interest will have surpassed all the value of everything we make, plus another 50%. It'll be 150%. This is a serious problem. Okay. So, people are saying, well, we got to save money. We got to save money. And so we're now hearing, one story after another about this federal agency being cut and that much money going to here that's not going there anymore. And government employees being, given the option to retire or get booted, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. And then the statistics are being thrown around. Numbers are being thrown around. So there was, for instance, a buyout offered to federal employees saying, come the end of September, beginning of October, that's the fiscal year for the federal government, you may not have a job. So here's what we're going to do. We'll offer you just a lump sum, and that will be your salary plus benefits from whenever you take it through September. Doesn't that sound like a deal? And federal employees are like going, yeah, I'm not sure that's a deal. The people, the administration offering that deal have said, looky here, look how much money we're saving. 70,000 federal employees have taken the deal, and we're not going to have to spend money on those federal employees. So that's the statistic. That's the worry, spending money. The solution, enticing federal employees to quit their jobs, so reduce the federal workforce. And then here comes the statistic. Hooah! Success. We have 70,000 who take the offer. Seems pretty good, huh? 70,000? That seems like a lot. I mean, I live in a town whose, normal population is less than 70,000. That sounds like everybody in my whole town has stopped taking money as a federal employee. Okay, but what's the number behind the number? Well, the number behind the number is if we don't pay not paying federal employees, we borrow, the equivalent of every single day we borrow the amount that we need to pay 40,000 federal employees. So 70,000 of them have quit. So what that means in real statistics in relationship to the issue at hand, borrowing too much money, is that congratulations, let's all pat ourselves on the back. We've saved enough money to claw back 1.5 day worth of borrowing. Not a drop in the bucket. Okay, so learn the difference between what the number says it is and what it really is by looking at the data behind the number. All right, this could save your job or your company or your organization at some point in the future, and in our case, I hope that it'll save the country. That people won't be bedazzled by these presentation that hey, give us all the power we need because we just saved you 70,000 federal employees. Oh, okay, but what you did was you clawed our borrowing back by 1.5 days. What about the other 363.5 days? What are we doing about that? Because 1.5 days worth of spending isn't going to solve the problem, right? I'm not taking sides in a partisan way concerning one administration or the other, the one that borrowed the money and the one that's saying they're saving the money. I'm using this as an example, an illustration of why it's really important to look at the number behind the number. Okay, everybody, have a great week. Get started on this next assignment. I'll post the second video concerning my review of your first assignment. So, give you a little feedback as you sort of feel your way through this assignment number 2. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. I think about you, I pray about you, and I will see you on Canvas. Bye-bye.